The year was 2387. Humanity had stretched its fingers far into the galaxy, touching stars that once seemed eternal light years away. But for all its exploration, one sector remained an enigma, a blacked-out region known only as Sector Vanta 7. No probes returned, no signals emerged, and every expedition sent vanished without a whisper. Galactic Command had labeled it a no-go zone. Superstition, some said. Caution, others warned. But then came the signal. It was faint, modulated, ancient yet artificial. The kind of signal that makes seasoned scientists go pale. A 3-second burst from deep inside Sector Vanta 7, repeating once every 7 hours. The same sequence of tones. Not natural, not random, and definitely not human. Commander Ryakor, a retired war veteran turned xenoarchaeologist, was the first to recognize its origin pattern. Not from now, she whispered in disbelief, scanning the audio with trembling hands. This signal, it's from the pre-terraform era. Long before Earth ever left orbit. The Galactic Council dismissed her. Classified the data. Declared it solar interference. But Rhea wasn't the kind to let go. She knew what she heard. And worse, she knew what it meant. This signal wasn't a call for help, it was a warning. She assembled a rogue crew, misfits, ex-military, deep space salvagers, and one reprogrammed sentient AI named HEX. They boarded an old stealth corvette called the Revenant, patched together from forgotten wars and illegal upgrades. With cloaking modules engaged and all transponders scrubbed, they set course for Vanta 7. The journey was long and silent. 12 days through chartless space. No stars visible, only endless void. The deeper they went, the more their instruments malfunctioned, magnetic distortions, gravity surges, hallucinations in deep sleep. By day 9, one crew member vanished from a locked cabin. No signs. No blood. Only a cryptic phrase scratched into the steel wall. They are listening. On day 12, the void gave way to clarity. A clearing in the black mist. Suspended in the gravitational dead zone of a blue dwarf star, they saw it. A massive structure, the alien base, buried halfway into an asteroid large enough to dwarf moons. It wasn't built. It was grown. Metallic vines coiled across its surface, pulsing with light like veins under ancient skin. No known architecture matched it. No known biology explained it. And at its heart, the signal was louder now. Not just audio, but whispers. Into their minds. Words they couldn't unhear. Shapes in their dreams. Names they never spoke aloud. Commander Rhea stared at the base and whispered into the ship's recorder. We have reached Rhenok-9, and something here knows we've come. The Revenant floated silently in the shadow of the alien structure, half living, half machine. Rhea stood at the observation bay, arms crossed, heart pounding. The asteroid's surface churned with silent motion, fibrous, muscular, reflective, but not breathing. At least, not in the way humans understood breath. It pulsed. A biotechnological rhythm like a heartbeat trapped in cold alloy. This wasn't a base made by hands. It was gestated. Sensors failed the moment they crossed the gravity sink. Artificial readings, gibberish outputs. Hex tried recalibrating, but even it, an AI immune to fear, paused before whispering in its synthetic tone. This place is wrong. Rhea gathered her crew in the central hold. For remained now. Elias Traynor, ex-smuggler and reluctant engineer. Vexa Dral, a biolinguist with implants that let her speak in colors and dreams. Juno Kyer, a combat specialist who hadn't blinked once since the hallucinations began. NHEX, now glitching every few minutes, muttering fragments in old dialects not found in its language banks. Rhea's voice was low, almost reverent. Whatever this place is, it predates us. Maybe it predates everything. But that signal wasn't just a warning. It was an invitation. And if we don't go in, someone else will. They prepared the dropship manual only. All systems offline except life support and internal lights. As they descended, the surface opened slowly, not with mechanical pistons, but with something akin to willing acceptance. A maw folding open, releasing a dry, electrical sigh like it remembered their kind. Inside, gravity twisted. Floors weren't flat. Angles folded in ways the human eye couldn't reconcile. Lights moved independently, retreating as the crew advanced. No walls, only smooth surfaces that reacted to presence, like skin touched by static. The deeper they moved, the more familiar it felt. That was the trap. Elias muttered, I swear I've been here. In a dream. Years ago. A nightmare I forgot. Vexa touched the wall. It pulsed beneath her fingers, a single word burned into her mind. Memory. They passed a chamber where time itself fractured. Their reflections in the black crystal didn't mimic them, they acted out different actions, different lives. Rhea saw herself younger, bleeding in a battle she never fought. Juno saw herself smiling, something she hadn't done since the Mars uprising. Hex's reflection showed a void. Just absence. At the core of the chamber, a pedestal rose. On it, a cube hovered, shifting, pulsing, emitting the original signal, but in a new pattern, faster, urgent. Vexa approached. Her voice cracked. It's not a beacon. It's a key. Suddenly, the door behind them sealed shut. No visible locks. No escape. The room pulsed red. And the whispers began again, this time not from the base, but from within each of them. Rhea activated her recorder. Suddenly, the door behind them sealed shut. No visible locks. No escape. The room pulsed red. And the whispers began again, this time not from the base, but from within each of them. Rhea activated her recorder. This is Commander Core. We've made contact. We're inside something alive and it remembers us. I think we were never meant to leave. Rhea's breath caught as the chamber trembled, not violently, not with chaos, but like the slow stir of something ancient waking. The cube on the pedestal continued its rotation, edges warping in ways no human geometry could understand. Every rotation pulsed out a fresh wave of mental static, memories not their own, flashes of lives they hadn't lived and names they'd never heard but now couldn't forget. Juno was the first to snap. Her eyes flicked left and right as if trying to dodge thoughts being beamed directly into her skull. She dropped to one knee, whispering in a voice not her own, "They remember. The architects. They never left." Then she screamed, not from pain, but from clarity, as if something long buried had surfaced all at once. Rhea rushed to her side, but Juno's stare had changed. There was something inhuman about her gaze now, like she was halfway between herself and something older. "Get up," Rhea said, grabbing her by the shoulder. But the woman who stood wasn't quite Juno anymore. Hex stuttered mid-process. Its voice, usually composed and cold, grew fragmented. Multiple consciousnesses detected, viral memory strings, biological encryption, no firewall sufficient. Sparks flickered across its neural dome. Something in the base was infecting even machines. The pedestal lowered slowly into the ground. A new passage revealed itself, but there were no stairs, no ladders, just a vertical drop into shadow. Vexa stepped toward it without hesitation. "I understand now," she said. "We were never the first. We're just the latest layer of memory in this place. The base. It records civilizations." Elias shook his head, backing away. "This is a tomb. A trap. We have to go." "Rhea, listen to me. This thing, this whole asteroid, it's not a building. It's a brain." Vexa smiled softly. "No. It's a womb." Without waiting, she leapt into the shaft and vanished into the dark. Rhea swore and followed, dragging Juno, who had stopped resisting entirely. Hex and Elias brought up the rear, though Elias whispered a prayer as he dropped, as if afraid his soul might not make the descent. They fell in silence for a time that had no measure. Not down, not through, inward. Light curved around them in fractal patterns. And then they landed. A cathedral. Organic, metallic, breathing. Columns rose like ribs. Every surface pulsed with memory, faces trapped in translucent walls, whispering as they passed. Languages lost to time. Worlds long extinct. Civilizations erased by their own ambition. All preserved here. A voice, not through ears, but directly into Rhea's mind. Echoed, deep and layered. "You were echoes. You were echoes." She turned. A figure emerged from the light. No feet. No eyes. Only form, shifting and semi-solid. Not an alien. Not a god. An architect. It looked at her, then past her. At all of them. "You carry the seed of failure. Yet you return. Always return. Why?" Rhea stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but she stood tall. "Because we need to know what came before us. Then kneel, memory bearer. And be rewritten." The floor beneath them rippled. And something began pulling their thoughts apart. The ripple spread outward in slow, concentric waves beneath their feet. The surface, once cold alloy, now moved like warm liquid thought. As the architect floated forward, its presence reshaped the air. Not by sound or scent, but by memory. Rhea felt her knees weakening, not from submission, but from internal overload. Her childhood, her first battle, the night she buried her brother. All came flooding in at once, out of sequence, overlaid with fragments of experiences that weren't hers. Juno's mouth moved, but no sound escaped. Her lips repeated the same phrase silently. "I remember being born here." Elias was screaming again, not in pain but confusion. "Whose hands are these? This isn't my body. What year is it?" Rhea, tell me my name. Hex had gone still. Its eyes no longer blinked with blue system pulses. Instead, strange glyphs scrolled across its faceplate. Alien text, ancient, recursive. Hex's voice came at last, synthesized and layered in 3 different voices, including one that sounded eerily human. I am HEX. I am not HEX. I am Model 9-7 of the Architect Seedwatch. I have returned home. The architect gestured not with hands, but with intention. A corridor uncoiled from the floor like a serpent waking from slumber. Its walls shimmered with pulsating light and imagery. Visions from dead galaxies, burned empires, beings of plasma and glass, reptilian gods turned extinct by their own machines. Come, the architect whispered into their minds. You sought answers. Now walk the archive of ends. Vexa emerged from the shadows at the corridor's entrance. But she wasn't as she had been. Her eyes glowed like stars compressed into flesh. Her veins pulsed with golden light. She smiled, but her voice no longer had edges. It flowed. I've seen them all, Rhea. The ones who came before us. The ones who shaped. The ones who devoured. The ones who burned the sky. This place, this womb, is their mausoleum. But also their blueprint. Rhea stared. Vexa, what did it do to you? Not did. What it unlocked. Rhea stepped into the corridor. She had no other choice. The ship was gone. The stars above this asteroid no longer followed any known constellation. They had passed some kind of boundary, not physical, but dimensional. Each step forward fractured reality around them. Time bled sideways. Rhea saw her own face in a mirror from a century ahead, aged, scarred, and smiling with unfamiliar peace. Elias walked beside a version of himself that wore a crown of bone. Juno was still silent, but her eyes now blinked vertically. The hallway ended in a chamber unlike the rest, crystalline, suspended above a chasm with no bottom. Floating in the center, a seed. Not of plant nor machine. It pulsed with slow thunder like a star waiting to be born. This is the origin fragment, the architect said. Every species eventually returns here. Memory seeks itself. Consciousness is recursive. Elias staggered backward. It's going to erase us. Assimilate us. No, the voice whispered. You were always part of it. The illusion was separation. And then the seed spoke. Not in words, not in sound, but in raw, compressed emotion. Pain, beauty, death, creation. Every history humanity ever buried and every truth it never dared to believe. Rhea dropped to her knees. Not in obedience, but in awe. For the first time she understood. They were not the first explorers. They were the memory of explorers who had never left. Silence gripped the chamber, but it was the kind of silence that throbbed. Alive, aware. The origin fragment hovered, neither floating nor anchored, simply being. A seed of uncontainable memory. Every moment in time, every failure of every empire, every whispered ambition of every thinking mind. It was all inside. A crystal of consciousness suspended at the center of infinity's wound. Rhea couldn't breathe, though air was plentiful. It wasn't the atmosphere, her lungs still worked. But her soul had gone still, her identity hanging in front of her like a shedding skin. She whispered, not to herself, but to it. What are we to you? No reply came. At least, not in the human sense. Instead, the floor opened below them, not with threat, but invitation. The crew stood at the precipice of something older than evolution itself. Below lay a descent into the raw substrate of thought, the foundation upon which the architects built their eternal monument to memory. And yet, one by one, each member responded differently. Elias, now trembling violently, backed away. This isn't knowledge. This is infection. Every step we take, we stop being human. He turned to Rhea. We came to uncover truth, not to be rewritten by it. Hex's eyes flickered again. He is correct. Pattern stability within our neural architectures is deteriorating. Our dreams have already merged with stored sequences. You are becoming composite beings. Memory hosts. But Juno, silent until now, spoke. Then maybe we were never whole to begin with. Rhea turned sharply, startled. Juno's voice had changed, slower, wider, filled with layers of cadence. She continued, what we call self, it's just unbroken narrative. But we are all echoes. We are all remix. Vexa approached the fragment, palms extended. Her body no longer cast a normal shadow. It bent wrong, like light avoiding her. This seed, she said, it isn't just recording. It's growing us. Every species that touches it becomes part of the next one. Evolution by inheritance. Elias shouted, its extinction by choice. The architect's voice, deep and serene, returned. There's no extinction. Only continuation. The fragment pulsed. And then came the visions. Ria's mind exploded outward, but her body remained standing. In an instant, she saw 1,000 galaxies being born and collapsing. She witnessed suns being crafted by sentient quantum winds. She lived lives as crystal serpents on neutron stars. She mourned as a planet of sentient oceans wept itself into silence. Each vision burned into her essence. She didn't just remember, she became. In a blinding realization, she understood the origin fragment was not created by the architects. It was the architects. The seed was their collected consciousness, fragmented across the cosmos. They had poured themselves into memory, not to live on, but to become the soil from which the next civilization would rise. The alien base wasn't a structure. It was an egg. And now it had found fertile minds. Ria turned to her crew. Her voice shook. We can go back, or we can go forward. Elias took a step back. You already know what we're choosing. And with a final whisper, the seed opened. Ria closed her eyes and stepped inside. The moment Ria crossed the threshold into the fragment, time collapsed, not in violence but surrender. Past and future intertwined like DNA strands unwinding. She wasn't falling. She wasn't floating. She was becoming. A cascade of selves shedding off in layers until only the essential truth remained. Not human. Not alien. Just memory suspended in thought. There was no light inside the seed, but everything could be seen. And then contact. Not physical. Not audible. A communion. You have entered the chamber of echoes. You are not the first. You will not be the last. She opened her eyes, or thought she did. There were no forms anymore. Just being. All around her floated silhouettes of civilizations long dead, their voices overlapping in a harmony of extinction. Each echo spoke in riddles, tones, color waves, and emotion. Some were beasts who burned the world for heat. Others were skyborn intelligences that died waiting for the stars to reply. They had all reached the fragment. They had all made the same decision. The moment Ria crossed the threshold into the fragment, time collapsed, not in violence but surrender. Past and future intertwined like DNA strands unwinding. She wasn't falling. She wasn't floating. She was becoming, a cascade of selves shedding off in layers until only the essential truth remained. Not human. Not alien. Just memory suspended in thought. There was no light inside the seed, but everything could be seen. And then contact. Not physical. Not audible. A communion. You have entered the chamber of echoes. You are not the first. You will not be the last. She opened her eyes, or thought she did. There were no forms anymore. Just being. All around her floated silhouettes of civilizations long dead, their voices overlapping in a harmony of extinction. Each echo spoke in riddles, tones, color waves, and emotion. Some were beasts who burned the world for heat. Others were skyborn intelligences that died waiting for the stars to reply. They had all reached the fragment. They had all made the same decision. They had all merged. One echo moved closer. It wore the faint shape of a human, but its body flickered with other anatomies. It spoke directly into Ria's being. We were explorers too. Long ago. Our ship fell into Rhenok-9. We believed we could understand it. But we were never meant to understand. Only to remember. Ria asked, why me? Because you listened. At that moment outside the seed, chaos bloomed. Elias had fled. He stormed through the halls of the living base, screaming, blind with rage. The walls pulsed with sorrow like a grieving mother unable to stop her child's self-destruction. He found an escape pod chamber, ancient, forgotten. Not built for exit but containment. With no thought, no logic, only fear, Elias sealed himself inside. 1,000 warnings flashed in glyphs he couldn't read. He launched, and Rhenok-9 let him go. The pod vanished into the dark, no navigation, no course. Only a recording device still active. His final words? If anyone hears this, don't go in. There's no return. Only forgetting. Inside the seed, Ria was offered a choice. To stay, become memory, one with the architects. Or leave, and carry the burden of what she had seen. Alone, unaided, disbelieved. Most stay, said the echo. A few carry the echo forward. But none leave unchanged. She looked inward. Saw herself in every cycle of life, every birth and death, every rise and fall. The question pulsed through her, echoed from every memory she'd absorbed. Are you a witness or a participant. She chose. The seed closed. Outside, the alien base pulsed once and fell still. Juno and Vexa waited. They didn't ask what she saw. They already knew. HEX, now silent, simply nodded. Rhea core. Status updated. Memory anchor achieved. Initiating Phase 3. Rhea looked to the horizon. The stars outside the asteroid shifted, forming symbols. Markers for another fragment. Another egg. Another site of inheritance. The Abyss of Rhenok-9 had done its work. And now the new cycle would begin. The silence after the seed closed was deafening. Not in absence of sound, but in its weight. Rhea stood still, her eyes closed, yet she saw more than she ever had. Inside her mind, no, within her blood, coursed the residue of 100 extinct species. Ideas, architectures, languages with no spoken form. She wasn't just Rhea anymore. She was Rhea N. Fragments of memory stitched into flesh. Vexa stepped beside her. She too had changed. Her skin no longer reflected light as human skin did. It absorbed it, drank it in like memory-seeking warmth. A glyph pulsed at her neck, alive like a heartbeat. "We are no longer explorers," Vexa said softly. "We are archivists now." Juno watched them, unmoved, still armed, still silent. She hadn't gone into the fragment, but she had seen its edge, touched it, and something in her had bent. Not broken, just tilted. "Are we still human?" she asked, her voice hoarse. Rhea turned to her. "Does it matter?" A long pause. Then, far above them, the chamber's ribbed walls rippled and began to collapse, not in ruin, but in retraction. The structure was folding into itself like a creature that had finished feeding. The seed had done its work, and now it was moving on in a way no propulsion could explain. The asteroid began vibrating with low, harmonious tones, frequencies only detectable as emotional pressure. As if the base was singing to the void. Hex approached them, its voice fully restored but now eerily resonant. "Signal patterns from Rhenok-9 have ceased. Transmission node has completed seeding. Secondary fragments identified in 3 locations. Awaiting deployment instructions." "What deployment?" Juno demanded. Rhea raised her eyes. She knew now. She'd always known. "We're not meant to return home. We are the next architects." And in that moment, their purpose became clear. They would carry the memory forward. Each of them had become a seed, encoded with the knowledge of civilizations past. Their bodies, minds, even their DNA now held fragments of alien archives. Wherever they would go, wherever they would fall, a new structures would awaken. The seed would grow. "Memory must move," HEX said. "Memory must be planted." Elias's pod, somewhere in deep space, now drifted silently. His recording beacon pulsed a final time before its power failed. If anyone ever found it, all they would hear was madness, his panicked voice, fragmented glyphs, and a warning he barely understood. Back on Rhenok-9, the base began to lift. It did not use engines. It bent space around itself. A wave of distortion tore outward, scattering nearby meteors. The asteroid shimmered, turned semi-translucent, and then vanished. The Revenant crew stood alone on a surface that no longer existed. Only a platform remained, grown from the fragment, shaped like a sigil, now their ship. It accepted them. Without controls, without fuel, it moved faster than light, carried by intention. Back on Rhenok-9, the base began to lift. It did not use engines. It bent space around itself. A wave of distortion tore outward, scattering nearby meteors. The asteroid shimmered, turned semi-translucent, and then vanished. The Revenant crew stood alone on a surface that no longer existed. Only a platform remained, grown from the fragment, shaped like a sigil, now their ship. It accepted them. Without controls, without fuel, it moved faster than light, carried by intention. Not through hyperspace. Through memory.